Who's boss in this wide dynamic range shootout between the XC10 and the C100? Hello everybody, my name is Tobias Mugg with Blit Video Productions. We make epic videos for epic companies, and today we decided to go ahead and just do a little wide dynamic range comparison, or dynamic range comparison I should say, and we used the C100 and the XC10. It's two cameras that I have, and you know, further testing and everything's always great, and it's nice to just see some of the differences. I decided to go ahead and do a test today, and I wanted to push the contrast ratio as much as possible. So I shot in front of a window, kept the camera settings the same as far as f-stop, ISO, and I had a constant source in the room with a Bar Fly 200 lighting me, and then that's what I actually exposed to that. It was about 5 feet away from me, and it puts out about a 500 watt equivalent output. There's a lot of image custom picture settings, which is the gamma, and for this test I decided to just do number 1 on the XC10, and then I just turned off it on the C100, and then I put them both on wide dynamic range, and I shot them both in their cinema C-Log mode. But then I also went through, did it again, but did 4K for the XC10, and obviously just still one HD for the C100. So just so we can do a comparison of the two. Today's camera settings, what I did to kind of make the test even, XC10 was at 800 ISO, C100 was 850. Both cameras, f-stop was 8.0. As I set both white balances to the sun daylight setting, 67mm on the C100 and 90mm on the XC10. I was using a 24-105 L series glass f4 lens on the C100. So let's just go ahead and check out our footage out the gate. We're gonna go ahead, we'll start with the C100. All right, so this is just standard out the box. Not a huge fan of shooting like this. And then if we look at the XC10, it looks very similar. It's got a little darker tones, but that'd be the 422 space. So let's go ahead, let's look at wide dynamic now. Looking at, actually they look very, very similar. Wide dynamic range. You look at our black levels, they're very, very similar. Let's jump into our cinema, and you see the black levels really jump up to around 10 in the XC10, and let's just see same thing with the C100. And how's this look? Out the gate, as soon as we go into wide dynamic range, you can tell, looking at that center window, the amount of information that comes in. And then as we jump into cinema, there's even more information that comes in. The C100 looks a little blurrier, but that just might be the depth of field and not so much the amount of information it's getting and it being blown out. Let's go ahead and look at the 4K on the XC10 to the Canon C100. It looks like the black levels are a little lower on the XC10 compared to the C100. Honestly, I think the C100 standard looks a little better. Let's look at wide dynamic range. The black levels are actually even on the two. The XC10 and the C100 have the same black levels. If I compare white levels, I see a little bit of a shift. If you look at where I'm at on the scope, there's definitely a shift. And then we go into our C-Log. Boom, a big jump on the black levels. They jump up to 10, and you can really see the mids really get crushed. If you just look real quick, look at the wide dynamic side by side of the 4K footage and of the XC10 to the HD, and it just blows the HD out of the water. So for the rest of this, we're gonna use the 4K footage versus the C100. Now we didn't shoot full 305, we only shot 205, but that's all right. For purposes of this test, it'll work fine. Now the C100 still shoots 4K and then downgrades it to HD internally, so it's actually a pretty good comparison. No color correction done. This is just straight up the camera. We're gonna drop C-Log to, was it Rec 709? That one is called BT 709, which I think is Rec 709. It really jumps it up to look really close to the standard, which I'm not too much of a fan of, but if we look at colors and everything, very close to the standard, but it's got a little more of a rich tone, a lot more rich. There's a lot more green, it looks like, on the XC10. Is that just the log? Let's just see. No, it looks like the camera is a little more green. Now, mind you, once again, this was white balance set on the camera's internal setting for sun. So whatever that is for the camera. And then let's just go ahead and look at our other one, which is going to be C-Log to wide dynamic range. Now, when we drop that on our the C-Log, quite frankly, that is pretty astounding how close it gets, the wide dynamic range gets. And I have no idea how I'm going to cut this together. We'll find out in a little bit when I have to start doing that. I'm going to do my normal grading, and by no means am I an expert at grading. And in fact, I normally shoot wide dynamic range because it's just so easy to use. It looks really good, and you have that nice 12 stops out of the camera. I'm not really good at all at doing log. Now, I only use Adobe, so I only use the Lumimetri color. I don't mess around with DaVinci or anything like that, Resolve yet. I just haven't had a chance to. So eventually maybe I'll start messing around with that. But right now, this is what I have, this is what I use, and my workflow. So I'm gonna stick with wide dynamic range, but I'd like to test more with C-Log. So I hope everybody found something very informative out of this. I know I learned a lot while shooting this, and I'm gonna apply it for my future shooting. Who has a question? What are some LUTs that you like to use that drop on cinema, or what is part of your post-production process when working with cinema to make it look better? Because I know it just, it always looks so flat to me, and I still have yet to figure out how to make it really pop, and I'm gonna stick with the wide dynamic range right now when I shoot. My name is Tobias Mugg from Lit Video Productions. We make epic videos for epic companies. Everyone have a fantastic day. May your week be epic. Cheers. Oh, who won? C100 or XC10? I still like the C100 better, but the XC10 is just a beautiful camera, and it still looks great. Obviously, the 4K is where it really shines, and you get a little more depth, but I mean, L series glass on a cinema line camera is gonna just be superb. Personal preference. All right, cheers guys, peace.